Let's go ahead and talk about the October 1st, 2025 episode of AEW Dynamite. Now, this is the 6th year anniversary for AEW Dynamite, so you have a pretty big event tonight. They were live in Hollywood, Florida tonight. And yeah, we kick off the show with the first match of the night. But before we talk about that match, we're going to talk about the Young Bucks. So yeah, we see Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the Young Bucks. And yeah, one of them was talking about how they gotta go pay, talk about entrances and all that stuff because they got the money to pay for the entrances, the pyro, the flames, all that stuff. So yeah, that's what they was talking about there. And they was talking about, well, one of them was talking about how, he's going to go talk to him. So he walks away, and then the other one starts playing at the casino and lost all the money. And then one of them came back, I think it was Nicholas. He comes back and, he's asking for it and everything, but the bag is empty. So yeah, that's what happened there, and they don't get no pyro, so they was already in the ring, and they was called the Broke Bucks at that point. But yeah, then we get to the first match of the night. It was the AEW World Tag Team Champions Bandito and Brody King. Brodito teaming up with Kenny Omega versus Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the Young Bucks, or the Broke Bucks, and Josh Alexander in a six-man tag team match tonight on AEW Dynamite. Now, Don Callis was on commentary for this match. In this match, it was a pretty good one. All six of these guys beating the hell out of each other, going back and forth and everything. We see Kenny Omega and Josh Alexander going at it. We see Omega hitting the V-trigger onto onto Alexander. And then we see him up against the ropes, and then we see Brody King jumping over the top rope onto the Young Bucks, taking them out, and then that's when Bandito hits the German suplex onto Josh Alexander, and then that's when Omega picks him up, hitting the one-winged angel, pinning him for the 1, 2, 3, picking up the win. So yeah, Brodito and Kenny Omega defeated the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander tonight in a six-man tag team match. That's what happened there. Pretty good match, though. And then after that match ended, we see Kenny Omega standing in the ring still. Brodito done left out the ring, and Kenny Omega was staring at the Young Bucks, and it looks like the Young Bucks coming up to him, and it looks like they're about to apologize and all that stuff up until Josh Alexander comes up, attacking Omega. He's beating him down. The Young Bucks are trying to get him to stop, but he still continued on beating up Kenny Omega up until we see Jack Perry and Luchasaurus Jurassic Express coming out there, making the save, taking out the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander, knocking them out of the ring. And then we see Jack Perry and Kenny Omega going at it because they started pushing each other. Omega started pushing Perry first, and then Perry starts pushing him after that. So yeah, they was going back and forth and everything, pushing each other. But then Jack Perry pushes Omega out of the way, hitting a suicide dive onto the Young Bucks outside of the ring. And then we see Luchasaurus and Jack Perry just taking out the Young Bucks and taking them backstage. So yeah, that's what happened there. And then after all that stuff, we see Kenny Omega grabbing the mic, and he starts cutting a promo in the middle of the ring. And he was talking about the 6-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite. And he was talking about how they made so many friends and also made friends and all that stuff. So yeah, that's what Kenny Omega was talking about. And he says goodbye and good night. He does this bang thing. And then all of a sudden, the lights go out. And then it comes back on, and we see a guy wearing a mask behind Kenny Omega, and then he takes off the mask, and it was Andrade El Idolo making his return tonight, and he starts attacking Kenny Omega, beating him down, and he lays him out, and then Andrade walks out with Don Callis. So yeah, it looks like Andrade El Idolo then made his return tonight on AEW Dynamite, and yeah, he walked out joining the Don Callis family. So yeah, that's what happened there. Pretty good match. What happened after the match was pretty good stuff. So yeah, pretty good things right there on AEW Dynamite for the match. What happened after the match, I'll give it all 4 stars. That's why I'll give it. It was pretty good stuff. But yeah, then they show like the past 6 years of AEW Dynamite and the promo package and all that. That was pretty cool. But yeah, up next it'll be Kyle Fletcher defending the TNT Championship up against Orange Cassidy 1-on-1 up next on AEW Dynamite. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Till then. So the next thing to happen on AEW Dynamite, we get to the next match, but before we talk about that match, we got to talk about a backstage segment where we see Mark Briscoe. He was talking about how for the past 6 months, he's been dealing with MJF, and now he's finally done dealing with MJF, and he was talking about what's next, and he was talking about what he's going to be doing next. So yeah, that's what Mark Briscoe was saying there. But then after that, we get to the next match of the night. It was the TNT champion, Kyle Fletcher, with Don Callis at ringside versus Orange Cassidy, one-on-one for the TNT championship. Now, originally, it was supposed to be Kyle Fletcher versus Hologram for the TNT championship, but Kyle Fletcher attacked Hologram on Collision, which Hologram is now injured. But yeah, that's what happened to him, and that's why Orange Cassidy's taking the spot. Well, we get to this match, and this match, it was a pretty good one. It was back and forth and everything. Orange Cassidy coming up near falls a lot of times in this one, trying to win the TNT championship. Kyle Fletcher's fighting back and everything, but then at the ending, we see Fletcher and Orange Cassidy out there on the top turnbuckle because Fletcher was trying to hit the top turnbuckle brainbuster onto Orange Cassidy, but Orange Cassidy fought back, and he manages to headbutt Kyle Fletcher off the top turnbuckle, taking him out. And then after that, we see Don Callis getting up on the ring apron like he's about to attack Orange Cassidy while the referee's distracted by Kyle Fletcher and everything. And while that's happening, we see Hologram come running down there, getting up on the ring apron, making sure that Don Callis gets off the apron. But then we see Hologram pulling Orange Cassidy's leg, hitting him on the top turnbuckle pretty much right there. And he turned on him. And then we see Kyle Fletcher coming up, hitting the top turnbuckle brainbuster onto Orange Cassidy, pinning him for the 3 count. And yeah, Kyle Fletcher defeated Orange Cassidy tonight to retain the TNT Championship. But then after the match ended, we see Kyle Fletcher and Hologram attacking Orange Cassidy up until we see the conglomeration come running down there, making the save, chasing Fletcher and Hologram out the ring. Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, seeing they came down there. And after all that, we see the rest of the Don Callis family coming out on the stage. Andrade El Idolo, we see Josh Alexander, and every single body else. And then we see Hologram ripping off the shirt. He was all tatted up and everything. It's the clone Hologram, and yeah, that's what happened there after that segment. But yeah, for the match and all that stuff, I'll give it 4 stars. That's why I'll give it a pretty good match. But then after that match ended, we see Renee Paquette backstage interviewing the TBS champion, Mercedes Moné. She was talking about being 10 belts Moné and all that stuff. And she's talking about how next week on Dynamite, she'll be defending her TNT championship on Title Tuesday. So yeah, that's what Mercedes Moné was saying there. And then we see Harley Cameron coming up, wanting to team up with Mercedes Moné. She gets to Mercedes Moné puppet and all that stuff, and Mercedes turns her down, talking about how she tags with everyone. So yeah, that's what Mercedes says there, because Mercedes wants to go after the women's tag team championships now. But yeah, that's what happened there. But up next, we're going to be seeing the Death Riders taking on the Ops and Hangman Adam Page up next in a 6-man tag team match. That match will be up next. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Till then. So the next thing to happen on AEW Dynamite, we get to the next match of the night. It was Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Daniel Garcia, the Death Riders, versus the AEW Trios Tag Team Champions, Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs, the Ops, and the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, Hangman Adam Page, in a 6-man tag team match. We get to the 6-man tag team match. In this match, it was a pretty good one. It was back and forth and everything. We started getting towards the ending of this match where Adam Page was tagged in. We see Powerhouse Hobbs pretty much laying out Claudio, and then Daniel Garcia takes Powerhouse Hobbs over the top rope onto the floor. We see Samoa Joe knocking Daniel Garcia off the ring apron, and then Joe turns around. He gets hit with the paradigm shift by Jon Moxley, and then we see Adam Page taking out Jon Moxley with a buckshot lariat on him, and then we see Claudio hit it, throwing Adam Page up in the air with a European uppercut onto him. He pins him 1, 2. Adam Page barely kicks out at 2. We see Claudio try to hit the neutralizer onto Adam Page after that, but then Adam Page trips him up, doing a jackknife cover onto him. He gets a 2 count because Claudio fought out of that, and then we see Adam Page lifting up Claudio, hitting Deadeye onto him, and then he gets up on the ring apron, hitting the buckshot lariat onto Claudio, pinning him for the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, the Ops and Adam Page defeated the Death Riders tonight in a 6-man tag team match. That's what happened there for that match. What happens after the match, I'll give it all 4 stars. That's what I'll give it. But then after all that stuff, we see Adam Page pretty much handing Powerhouse Hobbs his title. He hands over Samoa Joe's title, but then the title dropped right there in front of Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe took that as disrespect, and he was all upset and everything, and then he was talking about the tag team match and everything, how Adam Page took his tag and all that, and then Samoa Joe starts pushing Adam Page starts pushing him back, security comes running in there, stopping them from pushing each other and everything, and then we see Samoa Joe pretty much jabbing Adam Page in the face, and then both guys about to brawl, but security kept them apart. So yeah, that's what happened there. Crazy part right there. It looks like Adam Page and Samoa Joe will be going into a feud with the AEW World title, because then at the ending of that stuff, we did hear Samoa Joe saying that Adam Page never beat him before. So yeah, that's what happened there. But yeah, I'll see you guys later until the next thing that happens on AEW Dynamite. See you guys later. Till then. So the next thing that happened on AEW Dynamite, we get to the next segment of the night. Before we talk about the next match, we gotta talk about Hangman Adam Page. So yeah, we see Renee Paquette interviewing the AEW World Heavyweight Champion Hangman Adam Page backstage. Adam Page was talking about what happened in the ring and everything. He was talking about how Samoa Joe acted like he was all upset about the title and everything because he dropped his own title. But then Adam Page actually says that Samoa Joe actually said during the confrontation that, Adam Page never beat him. And he says that he knows why that's the case. And he says that that's why they got into it and all that. And he says that, at the next pay-per-view, I think it's World's End, I think Adam Page says that he'll be defending his world title up against Samoa Joe. So yeah, that's what Adam Page says there. But then after that, we get to the next match of the night. It was Timeless Tony Storm versus Ty Mello 1-on-1. So yeah, we get to this match. This match, it was pretty good. We see Ty Mello try to hit the TKO onto Tony Storm, but then Tony Storm counters that into a German suplex, and then she hits the hip attack in the corner, and then she hits Storm Zero onto Ty Mello, pinning her for the 3 count. So yeah, Tony Storm defeated Ty Mello tonight in a 1-on-1 match. That's wiping there. Pretty good match. But then after the match ended, Tony Storm grabs the mic and she starts cutting a promo, talking about how she's not done with Chris Statlander, how she's going to get back her AEW Women's World Championship from her. So yeah, that's what Timeless Tony Storm says there. For that match between Tony Storm and Ty Mello there, I'll give it 2 stars. That's what I'll give it. It didn't last that long or anything, but that's what I'll give the match. But yeah, that's what happened there. So yeah, I'll see you guys later until the next thing happens on AEW Dynamite. See you guys later. Till then. So the next thing to happen on AEW Dynamite, we get to the next match of the night. But before we talk about that match, we got to talk about a backstage segment where we see Renee Paquette interviewing Samoa Joe with Powerhouse Hobbs backstage. And Samoa Joe was talking about the disrespect that Adam Page gave him. But then he says that, yeah, it is true that Adam Page never beat him before. And he says that he'll beat him for the world title at World's End. So yeah, that's what Samoa Joe tells Adam Page there. And then after that, we get to the next match of the night. It was Toa Leona and Bishop Khan, the Gates of Agony GOA, versus Blake Christian and Lee Johnson, I believe, the Swirl, in a tag team match with Ricochet on commentary. We did see GOA picking up the win here in the tag team match. It was pretty good tag team match for the most part. For that match, I'll give it 2.5 stars is what I'll give it. But then after that match, we see Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, MVP, the Hurt Syndicate coming out there interrupting them, and the MVP was talking about how they never beat Bobby Lashley, or how they never beat Shelton Benjamin, how they actually beat MVP. So yeah, that's what MVP said. And then he says that, how about next week on Dynamite, it will be the Hurt Syndicate versus GOA and Ricochet in a street fight. And then he throws the mic over to Ricochet, and Ricochet accepts. So yeah, it looks like that match is now official for next week's episode of Dynamite. But then after that, we see Renee Paquette interviewing Chris Statlander, which is a new AEW Women's World Champion, backstage. And Chris Statlander was talking about how she will face Tony Storm 1-on-1 because he never faced off 1-on-1 before. And she says that she will retain her women's title again. So yeah, that's what Chris Statlander says there. And then Harley Cameron comes up as well. So yeah, that's what happened there. But yeah, I'll see you guys later until the next thing that happens on AEW Dynamite. See you guys later. Till then. So the next thing that happened on AEW Dynamite, we get to the main event. It was Darby Allin and the AEW Women's World Champion Chris Statlander versus Will Yuta and Marina Shafir, the Death Riders, in a tornado tag team match. This is a no disqualification one, and yeah, this match, it was a pretty good one. Both of these teams beating the hell out of each other. Darby landing on a damn steel chair. At one point, we actually see Wheeler Yuta get hit with a superplex off the top turnbuckle onto a pile of steel chairs at one point. So yeah, that's swiping Willa Yuta. At one point as well, Marina Shafir had her feet in thumbtacks, so that's what happened there. And then she got powder thrown in her face by Willa Yuta by accident because Yuta was trying to throw powder into Darby Allin's face, but Darby moved out of the way, and that's how, Marina had powder in her face. And then Darby pushes Willer into Marina, and then Marina Shafir starts choking out Willa Yuta without even noticing. She thinks it's Darby. And then we see Chris Statlander climb up the top turnbuckle, jumping off with a 450 splash onto Willa Yuta and Marina Shafir. And then that's when Darby climbs up the top turnbuckle as well, hitting a coffin drop onto Willa Yuta, pinning him for the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, Darby Allin and Chris Statlander defeated the Death Riders tonight in a tag team match. That's what happened there. Pretty good one. But then after that match ended, we see Timeless Toni Storm coming out there. She is standing on the ramp. Chris Statlander gets out of the ring. She's standing on the ramp as well and holding up the title. And then all of a sudden, both women starts brawling. We see security pulling them apart and everything because their match at Wrestle Dream is now official for the AEW Women's World Championship. So yeah, both women's brawling on the ramp and everything. And then inside the ring, we see Pat coming in, attacking Darby Allin from behind, beating him down, and then he starts beating him with a belt and everything because at one point Darby was attacking Willa Yuta with a belt, so he was beating him with one. Pat got in there, beating down Darby, and then he starts choking Darby out with a belt until Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli gets into the ring, and then Jon Moxley pretty much starts cutting a promo. He tells Darby Allin that he's going to make him say "I quit" for the first ever time in his life. So yeah, that's wiping their match is official at Wrestle Dream as well as a "I quit" match. But yeah, that was the end of the AEW Dynamite for that match. I'll give it 4 stars as well. I'll say that was probably match of the night right there. But yeah, for tonight's AEW Dynamite, I'll give it 8.5 stars as well. It was a pretty good show. But yeah, that's been my AEW Dynamite October 1st, 2025 reviews. Like, subscribe to TNW Wrestling on YouTube, subscribe to my other channel, Word of Chris, and subscribe to this channel, Chris McDaniels, and follow me on all my social media accounts. I'll be down there in the description box. And I'll see you guys later for this Friday Night SmackDown reviews. See you guys later. Till then.